This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
And more powerful industrial nation. The country found itself in the grip of compelling new forces. It was exhilarating and frightening at the same time. Such moments of great historical change can be hard to bring to life. Too often, we lapse into big and abstract terms like industrialization to describe them. There are reasons to use such terms, but often it is hard to connect them with our experience, with the things we see or feel. Sometimes the example of a particular thing or event is needed to make it more real to us. There was just such a significant moment at the very conclusion of the Civil War, a ceremonial occasion that we passed by in silence 2 chapters ago, but to which we shall now return. That moment was the grand review of the Union armies, a solemn but celebratory procession ordered by the War Department for May 18th, 1865, 39 days after Appomattox. The participants in the review were the men of the Army of the Potomac, under General George Meade, and of the combined Western armies that had fought through Georgia and the Carolinas, under General William Tecumseh Sherman. The resulting parade was an astounding spectacle, on a scale never seen before. 200,000 men, marching for 2 days through the streets of Washington, D.C., in a line stretching as long as 25 miles. A steady flow of blue uniforms snaked its way through the city and past the shadow of the Capitol dome, like a tremendous python, as one observer said. Walt Whitman was there, enchanted by the panorama. For 2 days now, wrote the poet, the broad space of Pennsylvania Avenue along to Treasury Hill and so up to Georgetown and across the Aqueduct Bridge have been alive with a magnificent sight. The returning armies, marching in wide ranks stretching clear across the avenue. Spectators jammed the streets, sidewalks, doorsteps, windows, and balconies, craning their heads to watch, many having come from hundreds of miles away. Other celebrations were going on across the country, but not even remotely like this one. And remember this, there had been no such grand review at the end of the Revolution, or of the War of 1812, or of the Mexican War. This was something new. It was a national pageant, affirming the new American nation in its newfound power and unity. Whitman had called the marchers returning armies, but they were not that, not technically. The soldiers' actual homes were almost everywhere else but Washington. There were small-town Yankees from New England, farm boys from Ohio, Irish city dwellers, and African Americans from the South, recently freed from slavery, who had joined the army in eagerness to serve. But in another sense, what Whitman said was true. Wherever their original homes, they had become national men, through their membership in a powerful national military organization. There was no more obvious sign of the change than that long river of blue uniforms flowing through the streets of Washington. And yet, one wonders how many souls amid the cheering crowds lining the Washington streets those 2 days were troubled by what they were seeing. Did they perhaps glimpse in that invincible army something just as worrying as it was impressive? The possibility that their country was in the process of completely leaving behind the simpler America of the founding and moving into uncharted waters? We've seen how a long refining process was needed to produce the characteristic American political institutions. The central debates had always been about how to divide power among several competing entities, as a way of preventing the abuses of concentrated power. Were those questions now irrelevant? As the nation marched into a new era, was the concentration of force to be the decisive thing? Had Patrick Henry and the Anti-Federalists been wrong to predict that the Constitution would bring a centralization of power incompatible with the genius of republicanism? Or had they been right? Indeed, one of the most important questions to emerge in the era to come would be simply whether the Constitution was outdated. Did it continue to express enduring truths about the nature of governments? Truths that Lincoln thought worth fighting for, worth preserving? Or